How the hell did we get here?
It's a big triangle or something. I don't know. What's on the top there?
Straighter.
Yep.
That roundhouse right hand.
And that's what we've been talking about. The straight shot is the one where he gets leverage on it.
I don't want to kill
Pull
somebody
back
for
a little
few
bit.
seconds.
Nah, I want a body on my record.
Now, I want to see you fight motherfuckers. I do. All right, I'm with you. I'm with you. As long as you're trying to fight the great, the best competition.
For 16 straight fights, Gervonta Tank Davis fought bum after bum after bum. Desi Williams, the fuck is that? Jacob Minnow, Jonathan Gears, Raphael Kissass, Edward Goodall. Who the fuck are these people? Bum after bum after bum after bum after bum. Nobody. Over and over and over again. For 16 straight fights, bum after bum. He finally beat Mario Antonio Macias, another fucking bum. And when he beat that bum, he jumped into the rankings, to the WBO rankings at number 9. That was Tank's first ranking in boxing, was number 9 after beating 16 straight fucking bums. Nobodies. 3 of them in their debut. Straight garbage. His very next fight, after being number 9 in the WBO, his very next fight was against Pedraza. So when he went to fight Pedraza for the IBF title, he jumped in the rankings at number 8. He was unranked before that. He was only ranked in the WBO. He was unranked. So when the fight got signed, when the fight got into negotiations and talked about fighting Pedraza, that is when Gervonta Tank Davis jumped into the IBF rankings at number 8 out of nowhere. Nobody cared. But that's what happened. When he jumped into the IBF rankings, the lineal champion was vacant, but Jose Pedraza was ranked number 6 in the lineal rankings. All right. Jose Pedraza was the IBF champion. Francisco Vargas was the WBC. Lomachenko was the WBO. Jezreel Corrales was the WBA. He picked Jose Pedraza. I do not know how Jose Pedraza was tag you're it to get a Tank Davis fight, or for Tank to fight Jose Pedraza. I'm not sure. He wasn't even ranked. He was ranked in the WBO, number 9. But had he fought the champion in the WBO, which he could have in a voluntary, it would have been Vasyl Lomachenko. That's who was the champion. Number 9. So had Lomachenko not beat Roman Martinez, they had Tank Davis set up to fight Roman Martinez, another Mexican. That is who Tank was going to fight. He jumped in the rankings at number 9. He was fighting Roman Martinez. If Roman Martinez would have beat Lomachenko, Tank was fighting Roman Martinez. When Lomachenko won, all of a sudden, Tank jumped into the rankings, into the IBF, out of nowhere, without fighting anybody. Mario Macias was unranked. Gervonta Tank Davis did not fight his first ranked fighter until he fought Jose Pedraza. Jose Pedraza was the very first ranked fighter ever that Tank fought in his career. The IBF champion. That's how they had this man set up. Okay, so he beats Jose Pedraza. Tank becomes the IBF champion. Miguel Berchelt beat Francisco Vargas, he was a WBC champion. Lomachenko was still the WBO. Jezreel Corrales was still the WBA. All right, he defended his title against his number 1, the mandatory Liam. Went over to the UK and fought behind the pub. He did not fight in the big room, Dumbledore, none of these motherfuckers. Nigga fought straight behind the pub, but whatever. He beat Liam. And then vacated the belts. Couldn't make weight. Beat Liam and vacated the damn belt. Dropped. Well, he didn't really vacate. He was stripped of his belt because he couldn't make weight. When he fought Francisco Fonseca was ranked number 7 in the IBF and number 14 in the WBO. Of course, Tank knocked him out because he was garbage. Miguel Berchelt was to the WBC. Lomachenko was to the WBO. Jezreel Corrales was still the WBA. This is where the fuckery starts to happen with the WBA. Out of nowhere now, Jezreel Corrales is downgraded from the WBA regular, from the WBA super to the WBA regular, out of nowhere, and for absolutely no reason. 100% no reason. I'm not sure what was going on with this, but whatever. So when Alberto Machado beat Jezreel Corrales, Alberto Machado was made the WBA regular champion. So he wasn't made the WBA super champion. He was made the WBA regular champion out of nowhere. So Lomachenko was to the WBO champion. Miguel Berchelt was to the WBC, and Kenichi Ichi and Scratchy beat. He won the vacant IBF title, so he was now the vacant IBF champion. Tank Davis fought Jesus Cuellar, who was number 1 in the WBA, out of nowhere. Now, beating Jesus Cuellar out of nowhere for a vacant title. No one had this belt now. No one had this belt. And if you look at Tank Davis's resume, out of nowhere, he just becomes the WBA super champion out of nowhere. If you look at his box rec, he didn't beat nobody. He fought Fonseca. Fonseca was not the WBA champion. Jesus Cuellar was not the WBA champion. Alberto Machado was the WBO super champion. He beat Jezreel Corrales. But for some strange reason, they just downgraded Alberto Machado. So when that made the WBA super champion open, available, out of nowhere. Tank Davis he's ranked number 3 in the WBA. He beats Jesus Cuellar. He beats Jesus Cuellar, who was number 1, right? And just out of nowhere, he's this ranking out of nowhere, right? So this whole thing right here is weird as hell. This whole thing. So you go from Jezreel Corrales being the WBA champion, the WBA super champion. Alberto Machado beat him. Alberto Machado, instead of becoming the WBA super champion, Alberto Machado becomes the WBA regular champion, and the WBA super championship is vacant. So when Tank fights Jesus Cuellar, he's automatically ranked number 3 out of nowhere. He was not ranked when he fought Fonseca. Tank Davis was not ranked in the WBA at all, but beating Jesus Cuellar, who was number 3, fighting Jesus Cuellar, not beating him, fighting him. When he went into that fight, he was number 3 ranked when he went into that fight. So I mean, like, I can't even explain this. I can't even explain this. The fuckery that happened here is it's hard to explain. And I'm sitting here going through the motions, right? Trying to figure out how this happened. I'm doing the research, trying to figure out what went on with this. And there is no explanation. Just out of nowhere, Jezreel Corrales was downgraded from the WBA super, downgraded to WBA regular. Alberto Machado beat him and was upgraded to the regular. Like he should have been the WBA super, not the WBA regular. But the WBA super just became vacant. Tank Davis was unranked when he fought Fonseca, unranked. And then mysteriously, now Fonseca was not ranked in the WBA at all. I just want people to be clear here, because this is the confusion right here. He was not ranked in the WBA at all. He was ranked in the IBF and WBO. Tank was unranked. So Tank beats a guy ranked in the IBF and WBO, and his next fight, he's ranked number 3 in the WBA out of nowhere. So Jesus Cuellar was ranked number 1 in the WBA. Tank, who was ranked number 3, beats Jesus Cuellar, who was ranked number 1. Alberto Machado is still the WBA Super Champion. But the WBA Super Champion, he was downgraded to the WBA Super, to WBA regular. The WBA Super was vacant, but Tank was upgraded to the WBA Super Champion. So by beating the number 1 ranked guy, he was made the WBA Super Champion, and Alberto Machado, who beat the WBA Super Champion, was downgraded from the WBA Super to the WBA regular, and Tank was made the WBA Super by beating the number 1 guy. If that shit is not some good ass inside home cooking, then I don't know what is. And the reason why Alberto Machado really didn't get, I remember the hoopla, but I didn't care. But I remember it. I remember people talking about how Machado's getting done dirty, and then it just faded off and nobody cared anymore. But it absolutely happened. So Lomachenko vacated the belt and moved up. Miguel Michel was still the WBC. Itchy and Scratchy was still at the IBF. Itchy and Scratchy lost to Tevin Farmer. All right, Miguel Michel still the WBC. Masayuto Ito was the WBO, and the WBA Super should have been vacant, but it wasn't. It was Tank Davis out of nowhere because he did not beat the champion, but he was the WBA Super Champion out of nowhere. I have no idea how that is. Andrew Concial beat Alberto Machado for the WBA Super Championship. But for some strange reason, Tank Davis was the WBA Super and Andrew Concial was the WBA regular champion. Jamel Herring beat Masayuto Ito. Miguel Burchelt was still the WBC. Tevin Farmer was still the IBF. The lineal status was vacant. All right, it was vacant. Ricardo Nunez was ranked number 2 in the WBA, and Hugo Ruiz was ranked number 9. That right there was an inside job with the WBA. It was an inside job, which puts more weight on when I'm not even going to go there. I'll just keep it right here. That was an inside job, that you take the WBA Super Champion and downgrade him, and then make Alberto Machado the WBA regular champion when he beats the WBA Super, and then let Tank fight the number 1 guy and become the WBA Super and never fight Machado. Never fight Machado. And then Andrew Cancial beats Machado and becomes the WBA regular and Tank's the WBA Super. Absolute insanity. Insanity. But whatever. So Tank moved up to 135 after this. Never unified, never defended, moved up to 135, and became number 1 in the WBC and number 1 in the WBA. All right, at the time, Lomachenko was the WBA champion because he had beat Jorge Linares. Lomachenko was a WBO champion because he beat Pedraza. Devin Haney was a WBC champion, and Richard Comey was the IBF champion. So when Gervonta Tank Davis moved up and was number 1, he was Lomachenko's mandatory. Yeah, he was also Devin Haney's mandatory. When Tank Davis moved up to 135, he fought the number 2 guy, Yuriorkis Gamboa. Tank was number 1. The WBA regular there was no WBA regular champion. Which means that Gervonta Tank Davis could have fought Lomachenko. He could have became Lomachenko's mandatory if he wanted to. Now I know BFTB, the WBA Super don't have mandatories. No, it does not. You are correct, it does not. So he could have fought Lomachenko straight up for the WBA title because Lomachenko moved up and fought Jorge Linares for the WBA Super title straight up. He did not fight for the WBA regular when Loma moved up. He fought Jorge Linares for the WBA Super. So Gervonta Tank Davis, who moved up to 135 and fought number 2 Gamboa for the WBA regular title, could have fought Vasyl Lomachenko for the WBA Super. He also could have fought Devin Haney for the WBC, the real WBC title. He could have fought either one of those guys. He was the mandatory to them both, to Loma and Devin, not just Devin. He was the mandatory to them both. And instead of fighting Lomachenko or Devin Haney, he fought Yuriorkis Gamboa and became the WBA regular champion for absolutely no reason. For absolutely no reason, y'all. No reason whatsoever. There was no reason for this man to fight Gamboa whatsoever. He could have fought Lomachenko or Devin Haney. Facts. He chose Yuriorkis Gamboa. Whatever. So he beats Gamboa. And instead of fighting, petitioning the WBA to unify the WBA titles with Lomachenko, or fighting Devin Haney, Richard Comey, instead of fighting those guys, he moved back down to 130 and fought Leo Santa Cruz, who was the champion. So he didn't fight the champion in his weight class. He moved down to fight Leo Santa Cruz, who was the champion at 130, a weight class he had just left. So, okay, so he fights Leo Santa Cruz, who was ranked number 10 in the lineal status. And then after fighting Leo Santa Cruz, who was ranked number 10 in the lineal status, he moves up to 140, where he was unranked, and fights Mario Barrios, the regular WBA champion. Josh Taylor, who was the champion, the undisputed lineal champion at 140, was available. He did not fight Josh Taylor, who had all the belts. So Gervonta Tank Davis could have became undisputed in one fight against Josh Taylor. Instead, he fought Mario Barrios, who was the regular champion at 140, the WBA regular champion. Again, Gervonta Tank Davis was not ranked, but he moved up and fought the WBA regular champion at 140. He was not ranked when he moved down and fought Leo Santa Cruz. So in two fights, back-to-back 2 fights, he was not ranked, but was able to fight the champion in back-to-back fights. Once again, WBA in-house home cooking. Because there's no reason that this fight should have been allowed at all. No reason. The only way that Tank was going to have the opportunity to fight Leo Santa Cruz or Mario Barrios is if he's ranked top 10 or top 15. He wasn't ranked at all in neither one. Yet he fought Leo Santa Cruz for the super title. And he fought Mario Barrios for the regular title in back-to-back fights. The super title against Leo and the regular title against Mario Barrios. Instead of fighting for the super championship against Leo, let me backtrack that. Instead of fighting for the super championship against Lomachenko, and then the super championship against Leo Santa Cruz, and then the super championship against Josh Taylor. He could have did that in 3 fights back to back to back. But he chose to fight for the Reggie belt, then the super belt, and then the Reggie belt again. Absolute insanity. And you guys are out here capping for this. You're capping for this. It's okay for this man to fight for the Reggie belt instead of fighting Lomachenko for the super belt. Then it's cool to fight Leo Santa Cruz for the super belt. And then again, it's okay to fight Mario Barrios for the Reggie belt and not Josh Taylor for the super belt. Which means that Gervonta Tank Davis would have, if he beat Lomachenko for the WBA super, he would have been the WBA, the WBO, and the lineal champion at 135. Because Lomachenko was the lineal champion when Tank Davis fought Gamboa. So he would have been the lineal champion had he beat Lomachenko. The next fight, he would have beat Leo Santa Cruz and fought again for back-to-back super championships, the real belt. And then his next fight, he would have been the lineal champion again. So within 7 months, Vasyl Lomachenko, well, not 7 months. Let me take that back. So within a year and a half, Vasyl Lomachenko, Tank Davis, could have been the lineal champion 2 times over. 2 times over. Had he beat Lomachenko, he would have been the lineal champion. Had he beat Josh Taylor, he would have been the lineal champion. He did not do neither one. He fought for a Reggie belt against Gamboa, then the real belt against little tiny Leo Santa Cruz, so he moved down in weight, and then he moved up to 140 and fought Mario Barrios for another Reggie belt, while Josh Taylor was the champion up there. Pathetic. So then he moved back down to 135 and fought the number 9 ranked guy in Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Number 9. But George Kambosos was the champion. George Kambosos. So Tank Davis could have beat George Kambosos, and Tank Davis would have been the WBA, the WBO, and the IBF champion had he beat George Kambosos. But instead he fought Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Insane. That's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Whatever. So George Kambosos beat Teofimo Lopez and became the champion. Right? He became the champion. Gervonta Tank Davis fought Rolly Romero, who was number 1 in the WBA. But he could have fought George Kambosos instead of Rolly Romero. Devin Haney beat George Kambosos. Devin Haney had everything. Instead of fighting Devin Haney, he fought Hector Luis Garcia, who was unranked in the WBA. There was absolutely no rhyme or reason for Tank to fight Hector Luis Garcia. He was unranked. He could have fought Devin Haney for everything, but instead he fought Hector Luis Garcia. His very next fight was Ryan Garcia, who was number 1 in the WBA. Ryan Garcia, who ducked Devin Haney. Ryan Garcia, who was Devin Haney's mandatory. Whatever, we'll get into that in another video. But Ryan Garcia was number 1 in the WBA and number 4 in the WBC, and Tank fought him. Ryan Garcia was number 3 lineal ranked when he fought him. So, Tank Davis fought 11 ranked fighters. He fought 7 undefeated fighters. He fought 3 champions and 4 lineal ranked fighters. He fought the fighters he fought have 493 total victories at the time when they fought, 125 losses, 16 draws, for a 74.6% win ratio. Now, I look at these. I look at these things, and it doesn't look that bad, but it's horrible because we know who he could have fought and who he should have fought. All of these people that he fought, there was absolutely no reason to fight these guys. None. Nobody was calling for these guys. Nobody wanted Fonseca, Cuellar, Ruiz, Nunez, Gamboa, Leo Santa Cruz, Mario Barrios. Nobody asked for those fights. I understand why Pitbull Cruz jumped in. I get that. And Rolly Romero, nobody asked for that either, but I understand it was an in-house fight. With these WBA, with the WBA doing the skullduggery that it's been doing, I see why Rolly Romero beat Jax Marinez. I see why. Yeah, I see why he was the mandatory for Tank Davis. The WBA has been protecting Tank Davis for a very long time. A very long time. Clearly Floyd Mayweather or whomever, someone is in cahoots with the WBA, because there is no reason for them to be moving Tank the way they've been moving him. Absolutely no reason. None. They should be forcing this man to unify the WBA super with the WBA regular like they said they were going to do 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It was getting ready to super belts or the regular belts. It was unifying them all. It was just going to be the WBA champion. How ironic that they waited for Devin Haney to leave the division and now Tank is just a WBA champion. How ironic. When Devin leaves, Tank is he's now just the champion. Not the super champion, not the Wallapalooper, not the Big Mac Burger, not the Big Mick. Just the WBA champion out of nowhere. So they waited for Devin to leave to get rid of the WBA super status. But as long as Devin was there, Devin was a super and Tank was a regular, so that Tank didn't have to fight Devin at all. Whatever, bro. This is what it is. It is what it is. It's not bad, but it damn sure ain't good. It damn sure ain't great. That's for sure. But it is what it is. BFTB. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And I'm out.